just waiting and have some people show up here. But like I know you as like a digital artist, and your process is like is digital, and I'm wondering if it was like always like that, or if you do other stuff as well.
I'm theatre was my first
Ah,
art
cool.
form, but quite grounded in community practice really. So that's kind of always been my thing. I do a lot of improv now. I
Ah,
don't
cool.
really do theatre as much, but yeah, improv's where I do kind of get my live kicks, um, and I like yeah I kind of sketch and draw and stuff as much as the next person, but yeah, never particularly kind of considered myself a visual artist. Uh, and then yeah, kind of past couple of years really found this way of creating, because I've always kind of coded on and off, and yeah, it's kind of been a very nice confluence of things coming together for me.
Yeah, totally. For me, it was like it did feel nice. It all came together, but it was like there were these two separate worlds. It was like world one, I was a technologist, and yeah, I could write a little bit of code, and obviously I work on product. And then like the other part of my life was like I was an artist that just painted on canvas. Um, this all kind of came from street art graffiti and then eventually just painting on canvas. And they were like very separate. And then where they weren't super separate was I was using like Instagram pretty early to promote my own art. And so I was selling actually a lot of painting pre-pandemic. I was like selling paintings via Instagram like crazy.
Oh, nice.
Um, which isn't exactly like, tech forward, but it was just like, I don't know, not a lot of artists had quite figured that out yet. And then I remember having my iPad with a pencil, which I never really got into. The early ones had a little bit of lag too. But then
Mm-hmm.
I think during the pandemic, um, one, it was like physical art just sucked. Like no one could even like come to my studio or anything. And then two, the first version of Photoshop for iPad came out. And I started playing with that, and then it just all kind of clicked. And I found NFTs, and now I feel sometimes I just lean too. I mean, there's just no question in the last year or 15 months. I've just like leaned really far digital.
Yeah.
It's also just much easier when you have kids and everything. You like have time and a space and find a location. Um, but now that I'm down here, it's like I got to have some space. I'm starting to paint again.
That's really nice. Yeah, it's
And
kind of
yeah,
the the interesting thing about digital for me is that it's harder to get the kind of therapeutic
very much so.
component, I
Totally.
think. Um, and what I do get really deep flow from coding, so that sort of does it. But all the rest of it, I find kind of hectic and wearing in a way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy
totally.
it, but yeah,
I always say like I paint for myself. It is 100% therapy, and it is totally like I put headphones on, I listen to music. That was like and I paint and I like tune out the world and the streams. Yeah, that was actually a problem for me when I had like these really young kids. It was like very hard for me to just have headphones in, and like even when
yeah.
everyone goes to sleep, like great, everyone goes to sleep. I'm gonna go paint, but it's like I could never really put headphones on because I was like listening, like just making sure no one was crying or anything. Um,
Yep. Still breathing. Still breathing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like, I'm not trying to put everything on mom. The kid wakes up and it's like, there I am smoking a joint, listening to hip hop, and and mom has to deal with it all. I'm not trying to be a jerk. But yeah, it's just different down here with help. The kids are a little older. Um, well, my daughter's a little bit older, and yeah, I've been painting the last couple, and one it's like actually, I'm very much in a developing nation, so it's not as easy as like, hey, just go to the art store like one of the 50
Right.
art stores around me and go pick it up. So it took me 2 weeks to even find art supplies and something that was like maybe like more equivalent to like a local Walmart. But
Okay.
fuck it, they have everything: acrylic, paintbrush, canvas, they have everything I needed.
Oh,
So I was able to get started this week. And I'm still looking for like, well, where would the actual artists around here shop? You know?
Oh, that's very cool. Will you be sharing your art
Yeah,
here, do you
I
think?
will 100% in every different type of way. I posted a work in progress last night to Farcast there. Um, one of the things before I sort of drifted away from making physical paintings, but when I had discovered NFTs, I was doing a combination of them. That's what I really want to do. It's like to me, it's like mixed media where I start on canvas and then pull it into that iPad or my PC, and so like the final will be like rooted in acrylic on canvas, but then has all of the affordances of digital, including AI and all that stuff.
Nice, nice. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Sweet.
Yeah, and I'm trying to put together a little Tronverse space for. I haven't quite figured out what it's going to be like holders of the NFTs, or maybe I'll do my own subscription using Hypersub. But I want to have a space where like people who care can come in and just have a deeper discussion um,
Nice.
around this. And so, like, if you were, I'm the only one in the space, but if you were in my space today, you would see I have a forum post with like this thing as a work in progress and me talking about it. Which, like, I find Warpcast and Farcaster, although, like, I'd be interested to hear more about the client you're building, but I find it like, maybe just a harder way to have a more nuanced conversation around my art.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
would.
also very public, which I love, and part of my art is all like very mimetic, but it's like, I don't know, if I were to talk about my feelings when I was painting, I'm not sure I want to put them on the public internet. I'd rather put them in like a little private part of the internet.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. And yeah, it's definitely something that I'm kind of thinking with in terms of the client that I'm building is kind of what are the like I'm kind of been thinking about the analogy of a theatre or a gallery and kind of what I know the theatre I'm kind of more familiar with, so I kind of think about the foyer, I think about the performance space, I think about the workshop and the rehearsal rooms
Yeah, really cool.
and the green room as well, the kind of social space where behind the scenes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that metaphor. Totally.
And and
Because
the public.
NFTs is like at a face value are still very like they're not there yet. Um, yeah, we probably could talk about NFTs forever, but there's something like what I love about physical art. I'm also a collector, and I always loved like I would meet an artist. My typical when I was like really collecting and like spending thousands of dollars, I would like go to an art show. Just I would sometimes they'd be random, but not so much random. It's like, oh, I follow this person, I like their art. Also, like I'm really into graffiti and street art, so usually it would be like I have seen this thing on the wall for 6 years, and now this guy has a show. And then I would go in, and of course it's a party, and then you eventually make your way over to the artists. They're all super nice, and just, everyone feels so blessed that you're there. And then we exchange contact. I would never buy anything in the gallery. I would exchange contact info with them, and that turned into me going to visit their studio, a couple of weeks later. And then I would usually buy something off the wall, which they love because they were having to give the gallery a cut. And I love because I would like spend a half a day with these guys or whatever, a couple of hours, and then maybe we'd go to lunch together. And there was like so much humanity. I look at like a lot of the paintings on my walls, although all of them are in Miami. But like there's so much humanity and the story behind them. It's like, oh, I met this artist, or like, oh, I remember we talked about X or whatever. I get hardly any of that via NFT, because a lot of it's like, here's my mint, go check it out, right? Um, so I like
Nice.
just the idea of like the intimacy of the theater or of the studio, and like how can we bring that to people and make it a part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. It's that connection, it's that intimacy that I'm definitely wanting to create, and that's part of the reason I'm kind of doing these private views and openings and things to try and get some more connection and stuff happening.
Well, awesome.
Hey
Uh,
Arjun.
what's up, Arjun? If you want to come up, you're welcome. Could make it clubhouse-ish. Okay, Chris, so we've chatted about art and my art. for quite a little bit. So let's just chat. I mean, it's first of all, it's been a while since you and I have connected, I think. Um,
Yeah,
and you've got a lot of cool stuff going on. Let's start. Just have you talk a little bit about the crowd fund and the client you're building.
So I see myself as a community artist first and foremost, with the intention of nourishing myself and the people that I connect with, and I'm kind of trying to push that as far as I can with the idea of a community as an artwork, and I don't quite yet know what that means, but to me, in kind of Web3, it's the connection of people in community that is what's fundamentally different about the art that's getting made. The kind of the shared ownership, the co-creation that's going on, and I'm working to bring that to life within the client, kind of pushing my imagination and the people who are collaborating, sort of as far as we can as to where that might go. And at the moment, it's a series of work. So the latest one being the Farcaster Fall co-created piece, which is actually launching in 45 minutes. The gallery opens, where about nearly 30 people from the kind of wider Farcaster community shared their interpretation of Farcaster Fall. And Chris and Arjun, you both contributed wonderfully into that, and so that's coming to life in the clients in 45 minutes time. There's kind of a central piece, which is all the work coming together, and then all the individual pieces that people created have their own space. And then the kind of the Farcaster native element of that is that every piece can be commented on. You can cast into the channel for the full co-created, and then each conversation inside of that is a thread in its own right. So I've kind of been building all of that out, and the kind of underlying infrastructure is the painful bit. I spend much more time coding a client than I do coding art at the moment. But I'm hoping, I'm kind of think I'm getting towards being over the hump with the infrastructure stuff and kind of put more energy into the work itself. So that's kind of the.
So like I haven't seen it yet. Does the client exist?
Yeah.
And like some people have come in and they're playing around with it.
Yeah, just starting to. Arjun's been one of those people.
Amazing.
And I'll just drop it into the chat here.
Cool, great.
So this, I'm trying to press cast. It says be the first one. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to be the first one. Okay, there we go.
Oh, me too, by the way. I see. You have to open it. Yeah.
Worked it out. So that's the link to the piece that's opening shortly.
Cool.
And then the general client overall. And yeah,
amazing.
If you go look at that piece, it's like it's the foyer. That's kind of, in terms of that, the theatre metaphor I was talking about. It's kind of like you're in the foyer waiting for the show to start. Is sort of what I'm trying to create there. And actually, just in saying that, I really should have a chat open for that space, and then there can be the pre-conversation, of course. We'll see when we get off this call whether I get the time
Yeah.
to
And so
squeeze it in.
like these are like channels like and they're like 52 channels that maybe aren't all necessarily in Warpcast.
So say that again. There's what channels?
So one, it's like I know you have a channel on Warpcast, right?
Right.
But like, do all of these pieces get their own sort of channels?
Effectively, yeah. Not on Webcast. They're
Right, but then the back
permissionless.
end, yeah,
Yeah. So what the way I've structured it this time is that there's one channel for Farcaster Full Co-Created.
got it, totally.
So yeah, that kind of exists. So it's kind of I wonder who will be the first other client to integrate one of these. But yeah, it's there.
Yeah, HeroCast could probably pull it in pretty quickly. They support sort of arbitrary stuff. Just maybe a reminder that we just had our prop house close last night, but the next one that I think will, Phil's leading this, I think will open in December, is completely channel-based retroactive funding. So, I would love to see you in it. Hey, one of the reasons we got on this chat is that you and I were sort of DMing about, maybe what Purple's role could be in supporting art on Farcaster and, potentially like what a Purple artist in resident would look like. And I wonder if you just like kick us off with some thoughts around maybe even like maybe we could just get really pointed and be like, what would an artist in residence for Purple look like, and what would be its goal?
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of the thing that caused me to jump into the DMs on this with you was someone going, we should be capturing the history of what's happening here on Farcaster, how we kind of recording it. And I think that's a great wider question, and kind of my response as an artist is by making community art around it. And I'd point to the Senior Spire foundation floor that we as a community co-created. Sort of started that about 3 months ago, and then I dropped it last month. And the 50 or so people that kind of came in and shared a cast about the seniors happening around Farcaster, and that's getting brought into an artwork, and that for me is an interesting and exciting way for us to capture what's happening here in a way that's kind of dynamic and interesting and leaves room for art and interpretation and surprise and delight and all of those things. So that's kind of what I think about, and I've been building on with the Senior Spire, and there's a floor for Farcaster Fall for the project that Cameron led that went up last week, and now I'm working on one for that's kind of building out of the wow, but kind of looking to capture the period over the past kind of couple of months since we went on to OP and permissionless and the Mole meme and all of that, and kind of planning on launching that as a co-creation pretty soon.
So about like like for people who are listening later, especially talk about like if they hadn't seen like maybe the Senior Spire or any of these, like what is the process of going from I know it starts with the cast, so going from a cast to like an artwork. Like, could you describe it for people and like how the community does get involved here and co-creates history?
Yeah, for sure. So, and at a basic level, there's a kind of core concept for the piece, and that first one, the Senior Spire, was the core concept was the seniors that is happening, inspired by Adrian's talk at FarCon, And that led to Cameron and I having a conversation off the back of that and wanting to make work that encouraged the kind of culture that we hoped for Farcaster and Purple and everything that we're all building here. And so once we'd kind of hit on the idea of a senior spire, it was then introducing that to the community and asking for people to cast in response their take on the genius of Farcaster, the collaborative genius that's going on. And
what were the kinds of things people were casting?
That ranged pretty wildly. And Arjun put a piece of poetry in on top of an image of a flower. There was video of Dan trying on the World Builder jacket. There's a load of Kiwi related memes from that period. Pictures of meetups, pictures of friends, maps where Johnny and Dan went to stay in the wrong hotel, like a big range for Talik's cast, all sorts of different kind of niches, and some of them, and what I like is the mix of like some of them being sort of core moments, central historical points almost, and then others just being little glimpses into someone's different view, different interpretation and connection to what we're all doing.
Awesome. So then what happens after people cast?
So after people cast, in that instance, I then kind of looked at that as a kind of mass of information and put it into a digital canvas, made it an HTML page, and if you go and look at it, it's almost like the ideas are sort of bubbling and this very dynamic. There's a lot of movement. It's sort of taking that raw data and interpreting it into an artwork, which is then minted. What I'm intending to do, and I've written a blog piece on this on Paragraph, is to create an API where that sort of source data is then available to any digital artists to interpret as they like, and to take it as input into their bit of code and generate their own co-created piece out of the other end of that. And ultimately, I'd like to get to a place where that's an on-chain API, if that makes any sense. I'm not even sure if that makes sense conceptually, but by which I mean
it could be. I mean, if all the raw material was a mint,
right,
it'd be really interesting. Yeah,
exactly. So that's how I'm thinking about these sort of things. For the next piece that's coming up, it's actually going to be a little bit the other way around, in as much as the artwork will kind of be built, and then so you will see what you're casting into in advance. But that's the core of the process.
Yeah, it's really cool. So now if I bring it back to capturing history, it's just a really interesting way to capture history, because one way would be that someone is a historian and they're writing some long form piece on it, but or record the history.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And so I kind of, I'd be really excited to kind of really pull on that thread over a period of time and really build up a series of work. And as part of that, I would see an airdrop going to everyone in purple, so they have that, they hold that then in their wallet. And also anyone outside of purple minting it, there's potential for revenue there as well.
And how often do you think, like, what do you think the frequency of the pieces could be? Like, on one hand, I could argue that the history is it daily. On the other hand, it's more like, I mean, things move fast, so maybe it's at least monthly. But yeah, just on the, how many pieces do you think? I have a lot of questions about like the I'm trying to stay away from like the actual nuts and bolts of what a proposal would look like, you know. But if I just went there, it would be like, what is like a reasonable term? Like, you know, just like a 3 month or 4 month thing. How many pieces do we think could happen? Is it just always kind of one off? Like when it happens, we know it happens, and it's time to record history. So yeah, I just have a lot of questions around that.
Yeah, and it's yeah. So I think so do I. I'm kind of interested in what the rest of the community think, but for me, monthly feels like a good cadence. Um, with a little bit of kind of leeway to respond to events as well, obviously. But there, I think that monthly cadence kind of would work quite nicely. There'll be something significant to say every month, I'm sure. And
Another way to do it would be to commission 5 pieces,
yeah.
and like the payment would be streamed or released with each piece. And then one, we don't have like the artificial pressure to like make history in a month if nothing happens. I mean, but stuff constantly happens, so I'm a little bit less concerned about that. But one, it's that, and then two, it like gives us the opportunity to do two or three if something, you know, really significant happens.
Yeah.
Um, you know, like when Elon joins, let's be there to mint it, you
Yeah,
know.
that's a really good point. And I think what I might quite like with that kind of structure is some kind of like very lightweight steering group or something. It almost sounds overstating it,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
know, just like a few folks who are just like can touch in and sort of be a bit of a like, and obviously we can ask the whole DAO, but we know what it's like out there, right? People get busy, they don't have the head around what's going on, and you know, it's
Yeah.
if they're just a handful, they're like, yeah, I'll be someone you can touch in, and we can kind of sense check that it feels like a good topic, I guess.
Yeah, I'm interested even more generally in, and I'm in a lot of DAOs, so I can speak more generally to DAOs, but also specifically for Purple, of having like more small groups of people entrusted to do things. And I think like a really good example, an easy example, and an easy yes is it's like kind of crazy for us to be voting every event. It might need like a half an ETH or 1 ETH. It's like a
Right. Yeah.
lot. It's like a lot of us are voting for someone to have an event, but we all basically, I mean, they always pass unanimously, you know. So we all agree that events are important, and so it's like, could we just set an events budget that we want to spend? You know, I've someone smarter, should think harder about it than me about this, but it's like for first quarter of next year, we want to spend 4 ETH, and we elect kind of an events grants council, and they at their discretion can dish out the event funds. You know,
Yeah.
it's just so much more efficient. It's like, you know, yeah, you find the people who are really passionate about it. I think what you're describing maybe is a little bit different, but it's a little bit similar, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
who either wants to get involved, and then like who really loves art and NFTs and pushing the limit of this stuff that could like not even necessarily just be like a thumbs up, thumbs down for you, but could be like an actual collaborator. Would be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a very cool way to go.
What if here's the hard question, which is, if we started to filter a lot of our proposals through the lens of QDAOs, which I feel is going to happen. How is either capturing the history or even more specifically participating in like co-creation together good for QDAOs, quality daily active users?
So my take on this is that it's the culture and diversity and interest of the people on Farcaster that draws more QDAOs into it, and I believe that doing interesting, artistic, creative work builds to and adds value to the attractiveness of the space, and that artists tend to be, and artists and creative people tend to be drawn to interesting experiments, dynamic things that are happening, and the more we can support that kind of activity, the more attractive and interesting Farcaster becomes as a space. And I think at the moment we're in a place where and this has kind of always been the case, we're a bit dev heavy. Loads of great devs. Don't think we want less devs. We want to keep building that as well. But we also need to be bringing in more people who are doing things outside of pure tech. And I think the more that we support artistic and creative practice, more we support innovation on top of the platform, it kind of opens up what's possible. I hope that kind of what I'm making and doing with the client is inspiring for people and helping people think about Farcaster in different ways.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I do think there's like, I think there's a lack of, there's a huge part of crypto that are creatives, but it's like they have not really found home in Farcaster yet. There is like the NFT culture, straight NFT culture, well, just an easier one, like the music crypto culture is just not very well represented on Farcaster. So there's one obvious one. Then like the NFT culture can be a little bit weird. Like you can go to the Zora channel and it's a little bit like turned a little bit into like a shill channel and people just sort of like post their NFT. There's no real discussion around it. It's just sort of like, hey, buy my NFT. What I like about your pieces is that, 20 or 50 people engage in them and comment on them, which maybe is probably the definition of a QDAO, as your pieces encourage conversation.
Yes, I think that is a really good point. It's the conversation always, isn't it?
Yeah, and like just back to the Zora channel point, when it started being like just very NFT heavy, Jacob had sort of suggested like, hey, instead of just dropping your NFTs, maybe the first cast should be about what you made, like why it's significant, and then put the NFT in the second cast. And I thought that was a really good suggestion by him because it could like build the culture of discussing art and discussing Zora. But no one really paid attention to it. Like there's that Discord culture of just like dropping your art in the shill channel. That's a little bit more what it feels like.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's that's another kind of opportunity with our own clients and stuff. That there's opportunity to quieten down behavior. Like I don't exactly know what the art channel looks like the purple culture channel or whatever it is, but as that emerges over the next period, but that can be curated space on other channels as well. We don't have to let everyone, just because they cast on a channel doesn't mean they have to have a voice there necessarily.
Yeah, totally. I would love to hear like I mean, there's no one here who's going to voice this opinion, but like, what would be the objection to this? And I wonder if we could even steel man it. Like for me, it's like it's hard for me to steel man it because like I just value culture and art so much. I think it's important to forecast there. I think Purple can have a role in um, encouraging art. We haven't done a lot to date. I mean, we did the Dropposal with you
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago. We updated the art with Octon, which is pretty cool. But we haven't done a whole lot else to like support arts. We have supported a lot of engineering, a little bit of media in this last prop house round, and obviously we like lean very heavily on retroactive funding, which I also don't find the best for arts. And then there's like a history component here too, which is like, in a semi-official way, or at least in a purple ordained way, capturing these historic moments. Um, I guess people would just sort of maybe question the value of doing this maybe more broadly and fundamentally, which again, is like a hard thing for me to steel man, but maybe someone else could,
Yeah, it's worth a time to go on it, though, isn't
What's
it?
that? Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I suppose the objection is that there isn't enough value in doing this, right? That there's
Yeah.
For one reason or another. So that there's a kind of a value objection. There's a sort of future funding objection.
Future funding, as in like people are always like, this is going to set a precedent, which I never really believe, but that's something I hear often.
Yeah, a bit of that, and like that it's not retro. If you
Oh,
see what
I
I
see what
mean.
you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a bigger discussion I think we just need to have as a community, which is it's easy to just retro fund, and that could just be purple. We could just retro fund, and it could be pretty easy, and I can like stop stop spending so much energy on purple because I know it's just about retro funding. Or we can proactively fund things. Like, I think the best communities actually require both. Um, but it's just very unclear to me what the will of the DAO is. Um, I would like to next year. I would like to see us proactively fund some stuff and like it not resulting in drama every time.
yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's an argument with this kind of particular proposal that could be made that's kind of like it's a bit of both. Like if people want to see it as retro, it's like there's plenty that I put into the community, plenty of community art I've made already. Retro fund that, and hell, I'll promise to spend it on making more.
Well, Taylor, I hear you for sure. Um, one of the things I think would be cool is like, and again, I think in DM, you and I have talked about maybe like a short experiment where like we could try it for 3 months or something like that, right? But I think what would be amazing is to do it for a year, and that there's a dedicated site or on-chain component where you can just check out 2024 in Warpcast, Forecaster, 2024 in Forecaster, and it's just there forever, right? That's like
Yeah,
yeah, because I look. There's two things here that both appeal to me. There's one, the documenting of important events happening on Forecaster, and that documentation happens via everyone in the community who wants to participate and say their word. That's like very, very appealing to me. And then that is turned into a media format. and that's like fun to digest and something you could check out 5 years from now and go through the history, you know. So that's like the historical documentation process of it. And then the second part is like the artworks and it from an art angle. Um, you know, both of these kind of appeal to me. But from the historical angle, it's like, yeah, it would be great. My 5 year example is real, which is like, imagine 5 years from now, and Warpcaster has whatever a million QDAOs, and you can go back through the early days, and a lot of the very early history will be lost, especially because casts expire, you know, unless people are good about archiving the whole thing. Um, but there won't be a whole lot about 20. First of all, 2023, maybe there will be because we did start to document and mint and do a lot better. But like 2022 is probably pretty lost history. Um, but here, it's like if we co-create artworks and media around moments in Farcaster history, it's like that'll live forever, especially on chain.
Right. Totally. And there's probably an opportunity to make a piece to try and capture what there is of the early years as well. That could be one of the first. That could be an early up thing.
Yeah, interesting. That's a good one.
A part of this, because like as a co-creation, it's not something that I wouldn't want to. I don't think any of us want to sit down and like try and cobble together the early history.
But you can ask the early users.
Right. Yeah. If we collaboratively do it, it would be pretty fun and relatively straightforward. And yeah. And Arden's absolutely right. Outcasters plays a role in all of this as well.
Yeah, really cool.
Nice. I'm mindful that I need to go and get my head into the opening fairly soon. What's the next step here, do you think?
Yeah, so I would like to distribute this in these get recorded, and so I'll distribute this in the channel and we'll see if anyone listens to it. Maybe the next step would be to chop this up into 15 minutes, which is not my strong suit, but I'd be willing to give it a shot. You know, so that it's sort of digestible. It's very hard to get community feedback. We haven't quite figured that out yet in Purple. And so, I mean, we just have to figure out how to do this because even like this upcoming prop to have a legal entity, it's like we did 2 unlonelys. We did, you know, it's like we did everything we could. And like for most people, they're still seeing it for the first time. Right. So there's one part of this which is like, I absolutely do not know the answer and that we need to get better at trying to circulate things around the community. There's another part of like, well, maybe we just start talking about it in the Warpcast channel and share this link and just talk about the concept in general and see what kind of feedback we can get. Because I think actually one of the purposes of this space was to introduce this, but the real purpose was hopefully to get some feedback and see if people can help us shape this or you know, even if there's any appetite at all.
Yeah, definitely. And for what it's worth, I was mentioning this to Johnny Matt a couple of days ago, and he was pretty fired up about it as an idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this was great. I have a lot of clarity, so even if no one listens to this, and it was just me and you and Arjun talking and listening, I have a much greater clarity around what you would want to do compared to like when we were just DMing. Right. I get it. The whole co-created piece is like it. You know, I very quickly came around to like, oh, this is the way we should be tracking history. You know, co-creating history is totally the way this should happen, especially on Farcaster. So yeah, it was really great chatting.
No, awesome. It's really good to talk about it, and yeah, thank you for your time and energy across Purple, as well as like helping drive the culture and champion for the arts that you are. Awesome. It's cool to chat, Chris.
Yeah, man. Good luck with the launch, and I'll see if I can tune in.
Awesome. Be great to see you there.
All right. Catch you later.
Take care. Catch you later.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.